Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Becoming You podcast. I am so excited that you're here today because we have reached our final episode in the Calm Moms Season holiday series. And if you are new here, my name is Lisa Hardy, and I am your host of this podcast. I am also a life coach for moms and a big self-love advocate. And this holiday series is all about creating calm for moms within the holiday season amidst the chaos, the overstimulation, the busyness, the mental load. And, of all the things that we could talk about to end the series, this one almost feels like the most important. And maybe it's been something that you've been struggling quietly as well, because today we're talking about filling up our own cup. Not theoretically, not ideally, but in the real life messiness of motherhood, of life, especially during the holidays. And I want to be honest here because this season is beautiful. Christmas is one of my favorite times of year. It's getting together with family. It's seeing my kids' faces on Christmas morning. But it's also one of the most emotionally and physically draining times of the year for moms. There is this pressure to be cheerful and magical and grateful, even when we're feeling drained or overstimulated or just tired or being pulled in 100 directions. And if you're a single mom like me or a mom without a lot of support, then that pressure can be multiplied in sort of a way that people haven't lived or won't fully understand. So if the holidays feel heavy or overwhelming or like you're trying to constantly keep up, then you are in the right place. You're not alone. And I want to reiterate that there is nothing wrong with you. Something I hear from moms all the time, and honestly, this is something I live with, is the deep guilt surrounding rest or doing nothing that isn't sort of productive when life feels so busy. And there's actually a science-based reason for that. Women, especially moms, we carry the majority of what's called invisible labor or emotional labor. Psychologists describe it as the mental load of, remembering everything, anticipating everyone's needs, keeping the schedule running, managing emotions, and this includes yours and everyone else's, and being the default sort of fixer for the problems. And during the holidays, that invisible work, the invisible labor, that often goes through the roof. The brain literally enters a state of cognitive overload, and that leads to decision fatigue, irritability, anxiety, and this sense of, if I stop now, everything is just going to fall apart. So the guilt you feel, the resistance to resting, the voice that's saying, I should be doing more, that's not you being unreasonable. This is your overworked nervous system trying to keep up with everything that you're doing. And for me as a single mom, and I know for many of the single moms who listen to our podcast, sometimes there is no backup plan. There's no person to hand things off to. There's no partner to say, well, I'll take this, you go rest. And sometimes our system is running at a higher baseline every single day. So if rest feels hard, that's why. But here's the science-based reality that we actually don't talk about enough, is that your brain cannot function properly without rest. Like truly it cannot. Every major study on burnout, control, and emotional regulation shows that when you don't give your body and mind the time to recover, your ability to handle stress decreases dramatically. So you're not being indulgent while you rest. You're literally supporting the biology that allows you to parent effectively. Rest is not luxury. It is maintenance, okay? That's something I really want you to remember, truly. It's like charging your phone, right? Your body cannot run on 1% and still give the world 100%. It's just impossible. And I want to remind you that self-care isn't pretty, okay? And I know I talk about self-care a lot, especially on Instagram, but self-care is really practical. There's this version of self-care that we do see on Instagram. It's not often what I talk about, but we see it every day, right? The spa days, the endless shopping trips, the let's go spend $1,000 on a mani-pedi and getting our hair done, right? That's simply just not realistic for the real life version for moms. Especially during this time of year, self-care looks a lot less like those spa days and more like choosing easier meals, buying fewer gifts, saying no to the event that you were already dreading, letting something be good enough instead of perfect, and protecting your energy even when it disappoints someone. And here's the science-backed truth that I think is very validating is that your nervous system can only handle so much stimulation. And if we look around, we are constantly having things thrown at us online, in the stores, when we're going out shopping, from other people, from our workplace even. The lights, the noise, the social events, the schedules, the planning, the sugar, the late nights. Holidays are overstimulating by design. So this time of year, if you feel more drained than usual, it's not a weakness. That's literally the biology that's happening right now. So when we talk about filling your cup, it's not about escaping your life. It's really about restoring your nervous system so you can show up in a way that's more present and calm in the way that you really want. And I really want to say something here that often gets missed, and that is filling your cup isn't about becoming some perfectly balanced, serene version of yourself, okay? It's not about never getting overwhelmed or never raising your voice or never losing your patience because we are human. Those things are bound to happen. But it's really about recognizing that you're human with a nervous system and that it has limits, that you have limits. And when you reach those limits, it's not some sort of character flaw, it's not a failure. It's simply your body saying, I'm done. I need a minute. And the holidays push us to that limit faster than any other time of year. I firmly believe that. You have more on your plate. There are far more expectations of you. You have more sensory input, more emotions, not just your own, but your kids' emotions or family dynamics that come out during the holidays. And you have that added financial pressure as well. And your system is trying to process this all at the same time. So when we talk about self-care during the holidays, we're talking about something much deeper than bubble baths. We're talking about regulation. We're talking about grounding. We're talking about giving your brain and body the conditions that they need to function. And I know, trust me, I know that this all sounds lovely, but in real life, it can honestly feel impossible, especially if you're a single mom with no one walking through the door at 6 p.m. to take over. Or if you're in a relationship where you still carry the majority of the emotional and household load. Or if your kids have higher needs. Sometimes self care looks like staring at a wall for 5 minutes because that's all you can manage. And that's okay. Sometimes it looks like a quiet cup of coffee in the morning before the rest of the house gets up. Sometimes it's letting your kids spend time on the iPad so you can catch your breath, which is okay, by the way. And sometimes it's also lowering your expectations. And I know this can be a hard one, but it's lowering your expectations, not because you don't care, but because you care about preserving your own well being. It matters too. And here's what's important, okay? All of those small moments count. The science shows that micro rest, those little pockets of recovery. This is something I talk about often, taking a 5-minute, 2-minute reset during your day, multiple times a day. They can bring down your stress hormones down just enough to prevent emotional flooding. It's like taking tiny sips of water when you can't have a full glass. It's still doing its work. It's still doing the job. Your nervous system doesn't need an hour. It needs signals of safety. It needs small interruptions in the pressure. And when you provide those, okay, even imperfectly, your whole experience is going to shift. Now, with this theme of filling up your own cup, I want to talk about something that gets twisted sometimes. And that's the idea that your energy sets the tone for your home. A lot of moms hear that and feel immediate pressure or guilt. Like, great, if I'm tired or stressed, I'm going to ruin everything. But that's not what this means. Your energy sets the tone because kids are wired to co-regulate. This is a nervous system concept, okay, not a moral one. Children literally borrow our emotional cues to determine safety. Their system looks at our systems. So when your cup is empty and when your body's in survival mode and you're juggling 20 different things at once, your kids feel that. Not because you're doing anything wrong, okay? That's not what I'm saying, but it's because they're tuned into you. And that is exactly why filling up your cup matters. Not to be perfect, not to keep the mood up, not to avoid disappointing people, but because you deserve to feel steady in your own body And your kids benefit from a mom whose nervous system isn't running on fumes. So giving yourself moments, even tiny ones, even 2 minutes, 5 minutes to regulate isn't selfish. It's actually necessary. It's necessary whether you have a partner or whether you're solo parenting like I am. When you take care of yourself, things don't suddenly become easy, but they do tend to become lighter, more manageable, more grounded. Now, I want to bring this into real life, right? The messy, the imperfect, the sometimes chaotic version of mom life. Because filling your cup isn't this sort of big dramatic shift. It's a whole lifestyle overhaul. It's not clearing your schedule and journaling an hour while soft music plays. But let's be honest, I do love doing that, even if it's only for 15 minutes. But most of the time, it is subtle and it's almost boring. And it's usually unseen by everyone else. It looks like choosing rest instead of the guilt, choosing enough, good enough. I have to go back to that good enough because it's something I want to reiterate. Choosing that good enough instead of perfection. It's going to help you create less stress. It's choosing presence over performance. This is something we talked about in the last episode of the Calm Mom season on the Becoming You podcast. It looks like giving yourself permission to slow down when everything else is around you is speeding up. And sometimes, especially with Moms for Love support, and you might be listening to this and what I'm about to say might completely resonate with you, but filling your cup isn't peaceful at all in those situations. Sometimes it's loud and it's chaotic and it's squeezed in between responsibilities. Sometimes it's 5 minutes of stillness in the car before the kids walk inside. Sometimes it's a good cry in the shower. I have done that. And those moments still count. They're not dramatic, but they are still deeply regulating. And I want to just give you a reminder that filling your cup isn't about how things look. It's about how they make you feel after. It's about the signal your body receives. And this is why I'm such a big proponent of self-care and taking small moments of joy, because the way they make you feel after is incredible. And it will help bring down that stress, help get you a little bit more grounded. It's really about the signal your body receives. I matter too, I'm allowed to pause, and I am okay. And when you feel that, even briefly, everything shifts. You respond differently, you breathe differently, you parent differently, you move through the day with a little bit more softness. That's what we're aiming for, not perfection. We don't want perfection. We don't do perfection around here, but that softness. So now that we've sort of grounded ourselves in why this season feels so heavy and why it's not a personal failing, let's shift into what it actually means to fill our cup in a way that's sort of doable and not overwhelming. Because let's be honest, the last thing that moms need, especially during the holidays, is another thing on their to-do list. I know I don't want any. And I think sometimes self-care messaging really becomes unrealistic because it is assuming moms have endless time, energy, money, childcare, emotional capacity, and support. But many moms are just really trying to get through the day without collapsing on bed fully clothed. So let's lower that bar a little bit, which is totally okay, but let's do it in the most lovingly way possible. There's research that shows that it only takes 20 to 60 seconds of intentional grounding to calm the sympathetic nervous system, which is the part that's responsible for your survival mode. Which means that you don't need a full vacation to feel better. You just need little moments where your brain receives a signal of safety. So it may look like putting your hand on your chest and taking a big, deep breath. That's something I actually do often, and it helps in so many ways. Or maybe it's sitting in your parked car for an extra minute before walking into your next responsibility. I also do this. There's something about being in my car that just feels so grounding. I'm not sure why. Or maybe it's stepping into the bathroom, not to hide, but to regroup and just letting your shoulders drop a little. This is not dramatic in any sort of big way, but it is powerful because your nervous system doesn't speak English or any other language. It speaks sensation. It responds to the slowing, the stillness, the breath, the warmth, the grounding. And one moment of regulation is better than pushing through a situation for 20 minutes. And there's something I want to normalize, especially for moms without any sort of support, because I think it's really important to talk about, is that sometimes a break doesn't feel relaxing. And sometimes it can feel really uncomfortable because your system has been running at full speed for so long that slowing down often feels foreign. And so that this doesn't mean that you're bad at resting. It means that your nervous system isn't used to the safety yet. And with practice, even those small little doses that we just talked about, that will begin to shift. And when we talk about that shift, I also want to talk about what I think is one of the most cup emptying parts of the holidays. And it's that feeling like you can't disappoint anyone. You say yes for things that you don't have time for. You add events out of obligation and not desire. And we sort of allow other people's expectations to drive our schedule. And then we end up feeling resentful and overwhelmed and guilty. But here is the psychological reality is that humans are wired for belonging and connection. So saying no can often actually feel like a threat to that connection, even when logically we know it's necessary, right? So if saying no really feels uncomfortable, that completely makes sense. But here is a reframe, okay? Every no is also a yes. It's a yes to yourself. It's a yes to your energy and to your peace, to your mental health, and to your family. Your time isn't divided, right? It's concentrated. Boundaries matter more, not less. And you don't need a long explanation when you say no to somebody. No is a complete sentence. I know we have a hard time with that. You don't need a PowerPoint presentation to justify why you're tired. You don't need to prove why you've earned rest. A simple, this doesn't work for us this year is enough, even if someone doesn't like it. Because protecting your peace will disappoint other people, but abandoning yourself will eventually disappoint you, and you deserve better than that. And with that, let's talk about overstimulation. Because if you've ever had a moment during the holidays where everything just feels too loud, too bright, too emotional, just too much, that's not dramatic. That's your nervous system reaching capacity. And this is something we've probably all experienced as moms during the holidays. And it's very common because motherhood already is a sensory overload with the voices, the crying, the questioning, the movement, the noise, the touch, the responsibility. And in the holidays, we add the crowds, we add the music, we add the conversations, the expectations, families, boundaries, and our nervous system has no place to exhale. So I want to remind you that if you need to step away, even for a few minutes, that it's not rude. That's regulation. And it doesn't really have to be graceful. You can excuse yourself to the bathroom. You can excuse yourself to go spend a couple minutes in your car. You can go outside for some fresh air. Whatever it is you need to do, it doesn't make you a bad mom. It doesn't make you a bad guest or a bad family member. It makes you human with a nervous system that is doing the best. And if you need to take a moment, that's okay. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And I want to come back to this intentionally because holiday conversations often assume that there's a partner, a co-parent, a village, someone to lighten the load. But that's not everyone's story. And I think it's important to also talk about that. Some moms are doing Christmas alone. Some moms are splitting the holidays and navigating the grief of it. Some moms don't get a break unless they create one. Some moms are in a relationship or in a partnership with no support. Some moms are financially stretched and emotionally stretched at the same time. There are so many different scenarios, and I know I can't cover them here, but I think we need to acknowledge the resilience in all of that. Not in sort of a superwoman way, but in a way that's real and in a way that's human. Being a mom, a single mom, a lonely partner during the holidays, it does still come with a lot of joy, yes, but also pressure, loneliness, decision fatigue, and longing for support that isn't there. And if that's you, there's nothing wrong with wanting things to feel easier. There's nothing wrong with grieving a version of the holidays that you imagine. And there's nothing wrong with scaling back. Not because you failed, but because you deserve to feel okay too. Your kids don't need everything. They need you. Regulated, present, emotionally available. even if you're tired and figuring it out as you go. And that requires giving back something to yourself, even if it's small, even if it's quiet, even if no one else sees it. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question, not to rush through it, but to actually sit with it. What do I need this season to feel at peace? Not with what your kids need, not what your family or partner needs, not what tradition demands, not what social media suggests. You, just you. And once you hear the answer, honor it, even a little, because peace isn't something that you usually stumble into. It's something you choose with intention, tiny moment by tiny moment. And your challenge this week, and I'm going to keep it simple on purpose. Pick one act of self-love and put it on your calendar. Not as a maybe, not as something that you'll try to squeeze in if you get lucky, but as an actual appointment with the same importance of a school meeting or event. And when the time comes, honor it. Show up for yourself. Show up for yourself in the way that you show up for everybody else. Because repetition teaches the brain what matters, and you matter. You matter. Please believe that. As we close out the Calm Mom series as part of the Becoming You podcast, I just want to say thank you. Truly, thank you for being here, for listening, for reflecting, for sharing the episodes, for trying, for caring about your emotional well-being, even when life feels busy and heavy and uncertain. And wherever you're heading into this holiday season, whether it's full and joyful or complicated and bittersweet, quiet, overwhelming, or just somewhere in between, I hope you remember this. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to earn joy. And you do not have to earn taking care of yourself. You deserve it because you're a person who needs it. You deserve it because you're a person with needs, not just a provider of everyone else's. And when you fill up your cup, the whole world will see the difference, especially the little ones that are watching you. So take a breath, take a break, take a moment, take the help, take the joy, and take the space that already belongs to you. And let this be the season where you care for yourself too. And with that, I want to thank you for being here today with the Becoming You podcast. If you know of a mom who needs to hear this message, please share this with her. And don't forget to follow or subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And remember, you are worth showing up for. Always. We'll see you next week on the Becoming You podcast.